If Tom and myself had to start our jump journeys all over again, these are 3 exercises we would pick each to transform our verticals and add 15 to 20 inches all over again. And the reason we're doing it for each of us is because Tom and I are different archetypes. So he's a faster athlete that needs to develop his muscular force outputs a little bit more. And I'm naturally a big, slow twitch guy that needs to develop
Right.
speed a little bit more. So let's jump into it. The 3 exercises you would pick, Tom, and we'll start off with just the first one for now. What's the first exercise you would
Okay.
pick? Being a faster archetype, so you're a little bit of a faster guy, you can run fast, but you need to develop more force.
Yeah. Real quick, why being fast has anything to do with jumping is generally if you're fast, like you're gonna have more fast twitch fibers for one, and for two, naturally you're gonna be more elastic than the guy who isn't as fast because you're rebounding off the floor quicker, you're storing more elastic energy. So you've got stiffer tendons, you've got better tendons for athleticism. So now that we've got that out of the way, my first exercise, I had to start again. And this is something I took a good 6 months to a year to really master and really actually go and try it. Before I was doing half versions of this or even quarter versions thinking they were sport specific, which they might be. But the answer on my number one is the barbell deep squat. Would you believe, we harp on about this all the time, but the barbell back squat deep, as deep as you can, like without injuring yourself or, without pushing through any like hip impingements, whatever. If you can squat deep, ass to grass, it's going to be one of the best things you can do in the gym for your athleticism, without a doubt.
Yeah. So my first exercise is also deep back squats. And the reason it's deep, it's not half squats, it's not quarter squats, it's not box squats, is because full depth squats they develop general strength better than anything else. And if you're squatting to depth and building strength at deeper ranges, that transfers over to the shorter ranges, but you don't get it the other way around. Half squat or quarter squat doesn't transfer nearly as well to a deep squat. And that's the reason why it's a deep squat, not a half squat, not a quarter squat, because you get more bang for your buck and you're developing strength in the half squat position or quarter squat position anyways through doing full depth. So it
Absolutely.
just takes more of the boxes. And for myself, being a slower athlete, I still need to get more forceful. I still need to get stronger. I still need to develop this quality. I can't ignore this quality. No one can ignore this quality, no matter who you are, no matter what type of body you have. Tom and I are completely different in terms of what we need to emphasize in our training, but we still need to develop this quality. I would just do it probably less and focus on it a little bit less and prioritize it a little bit less than Tom would. Tom would heavily prioritize it. I would still prioritize it, but not heavily. Because there's been situations in the past and with trained athletes that are much like my own archetype to where we get them stronger and nothing happens. So then we've had to add more speed
Yeah.
work and then their vertical skyrockets
I will
while their
say,
strength skyrockets.
yeah, from what I've seen, let's just like comparing you and me. I would say in the leg movements, let's just say like in the back squat, you generally need to squat less than I do to improve your back squat. When I squatted 200 and when I went from like 190 to 200, I was squatting 3 times a week. And I think the minimum I have to be able to squat is like at least 2 sessions a week or I won't get better. Now, is that a case of does Austin get his squat stronger easier than me? Mm. Or is it just harder for me because my relative is higher? I don't know. It could be it could be both those things. But I want to know your thoughts. Why? Or maybe there's an external reason.
Yeah, the strongest I've been, or probably not the strongest I've been, but one of the strongest times I've been is when I was squatting once a week because my
Yeah, that's
nervous
what I
system
mean.
and body
Like,
can just recover better and I respond well to and better to lower volumes. So that's the first exercise we would pick because you need to develop raw muscular output. And squatting does that in a very specific way. Jumping is very quad dominant. You want to do it in a high bar upright position, emphasize the quads, go as deep as your body allows, use heel elevation, all that. So moving on, what's the second exercise you would pick, Tom?
before I tell you the second, I just want to quickly go back. I remember you said something about back squats or deep back squats, develop your half squat, your quarter squat, your box squat. Now, I'll end with a little quote before we move on. The guy that can back squat 3 plates will always be able to he'll always be able to box squat 3 plates. But the guy that box squats 3 plates might not always be able to arse to grass, back squat, 3 plates. And it really goes to show that it just develops your overall strength the best, unlike no other thing. But yeah, anyway, moving on. Exercise number 2 is sprinting. That's my go-to in terms of plyometrics. It's probably the plyometric I've used the most. Sprinting is a plyometric, everyone. It's not like the typical plyometric you'd see on Instagram or whatever, but technically it is, and it's the best one. There's nothing quicker in terms of ground contact time than sprinting. There's no depth jump. There's no secret exercise where you can get off the ground and rebound quicker than sprinting. Therefore, it has a very important place in my training, and maybe Austin's training if he decides to pick sprinting.
So I will also pick sprinting because my archetype, I'm a slower athlete. I'm 100% more slow twitch dominant. I have higher percentage of slow twitch fibers. So sprinting, probably the best way, not even probably, it is the best way to get faster. If I want to become more of a fast twitch athlete, sprinting is going to be one of the biggest reasons that happens. And it's one of those things where it's quite versatile. Shorter distances, they develop more acceleration, going to get more of a quote unquote power stimulus. It's a shorter distance, you're not reaching maximum velocity or top speed. So it can be quite good for that. But also longer distances, you're going to get much higher elastic contacts, and that's going to develop your tendons and it's going to help you become more springy as well. So depending on what you need to work on and what you need to focus on as an athlete, it can be quite a versatile tool. You can even do resisted sprints as well, whether you want to count that as a different exercise or not. We're going to count it as the same
Yeah, chuck it
thing,
under.
and it's going to come under the umbrella of sprinting. But if you're not sprinting in your training, you need to start. So it's as simple as that. At least once a week for me, I will sprint once a week. Tom might do it multiple times.
3
Yeah,
times, yeah.
we'll put it in and out of our athletes' training. The ones that are slow, keep it in year round. Guys that are naturally a bit faster, they can get away with not having it in their training for a little bit as well. It really depends on what you need to work on or what you need to focus on. And if you want help knowing how to do these things, you can apply for coaching down below and we'll handle all that for you. So you don't have to guess. You can just show up, work hard, and get results. So if that's something that interests you, you can apply for coaching down below. But
Absolutely.
do you have anything else to say about sprinting, Tom, or can we move on?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it doesn't matter who you are. If you're naturally fast, naturally slow, you should be sprinting, man. It's gonna help you either, develop your really bad, fast twitch and elastic qualities, or if you already got that a little bit naturally, it's gonna just keep enhancing those. It's gonna enhance your strength. So there's no reason if you're trying to jump higher at some point in your training that you shouldn't be sprinting. Whether you do it, yeah, like you said, 1 time a week, 2 times a week, 3 times a week. That depends. If you need help, yeah, obviously we can help you out, and you don't really need to think about it too much, and we'll handle all that for you. But yeah, I'm happy to move on to our third point, which I think we're going to disagree. Well, not
It's not
disagree,
disagreeing,
but we're
we're
gonna
just
have
different.
yeah,
So
different archetypes, yeah, different
your third
answers.
third exercise is what?
I would say I said squats, which are very quad glute dominant for my first point. Speed, which is covered by the sprints. Exercise number 3 is going to be a Romanian deadlift, with a barbell. It's a very staple exercise. It might sound a little bit basic as an answer, a bit boring, but we're talking about hamstring development. One of the best exercises you can do. You can load that thing like a MF, and, obviously there's tons of variations you can do with it. You can really play around with it. You can play around with tempo, play around with stance. Obviously, you can do, your sets and reps and weight, all that kind of stuff. I just think it's a very good exercise. And I've probably implemented it since 2019. I've been doing it on and off different periods. And, as my RDL's gone up, my vert has. Not saying that, it's guaranteed, but there's a pretty linear correlation. Your hamstrings are involved in jumping. There's no two ways about it. Maybe not as much as the quads, and maybe your squat moves the needle a little bit more, but it's the other side of your leg. There's no reason to not try and get it strong. And again, if you're talking about for sprinting, maybe you sprint 2, 3 times a week, you're more at risk of injuries like hamstring pulls. Get your RDL up, your chances of pulling your hamstring are going to go down. So therefore, you're healthy. Therefore, you can keep training.
How much can you remaining deadlift right now?
Last time I had it in my block, I did 210 for 8 with elevated feet, like elevated heels,
That's kind of insane.
kilos, not
But it makes
pounds.
sense. It might be time to move to like single leg.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah. I mean,
like staggered
I've been
stance.
doing seated hamstring curls. I'm actually quite weak at those. I'm not super weak at them, but I think I've got a deficit there in the seated hamstring curl. So that's my current objective to really try and conquer that one. Because I think compared to my RDL, it's kind of embarrassing.
No, for sure. Like a key part of the jump is obviously using your quads a lot to decelerate you on an approach jump, but also to help propel you into the air. You're using hip extension quite a lot, and Romanian Deadlift trains hip extension, and it trains the hamstrings and the glutes through an eccentric, uh, like movement. So you're going to get quite good, high quality muscular strength built through there that's going to help prevent injuries, but also improve performance. And it's quite an important note as well that you picked Romanian deadlift over deadlift. And it's for that reason, because you have the eccentric part of the movement. Deadlift is very concentric dominant. You're pulling off the floor and then you're just dropping it. So you're not getting as good of a stimulus in terms of improving structure and the muscle and hypertrophy and all that as you would if you're doing a Romanian deadlift because you're getting that lowering part of the muscle is under load on the lowering part as well.
Yeah, you also don't need to probably load it as much as you would a deadlift to get like the same hamstring benefit.
Yeah, for sure. That's another thing. You don't need to load it as much. If you want to take it a step further, you can even go staggered stance as well. So then you don't have to put 210 on the bar.
Bro, honestly, the hardest part of that set was getting it off the rack. It was so awkward, and then having to like walk it back in. But the actual the actual movement wasn't too bad. They're a good exercise, man. They're a good exercise.
My last exercise is single leg hopping because a huge weakness of mine is my stretch shortening cycle. I can't eccentrically handle a lot of force and then redirect that into going up. I struggle with that. I always struggle with bringing speed in my approach. And there's a lot of people that have this issue. One component of it is technique and they just haven't jumped enough. But two is just they lack this quality. Their stretch shortening cycle is underdeveloped. And one of the best ways to improve that through the Achilles, through the knee, so it's hitting both at the same
Mm,
time, is through single leg hopping. And single leg hopping, why? Because it's very scalable. You can start with baby hops and very easily build up the intensity to where doing it on a single leg and going for maximum distance and height and getting a crazy high stimulus. And it's going to load the tissues more than, say, a double leg plyometric would because you're on a single leg, duh, you know? So it's a very scalable
yes, yes,
exercise. You
yes.
can use it for a very long time, and it's one of the best ones to improve that quality. And whenever I've done it consistently and got better at it, my approach jumps felt more effortless. I could bring more speed in. I felt like I was floating up more, everything like that. Another one that develops is Colley's depth jumps as well. I would
Mm.
say it gets to a certain point where the box is like, what? You're going to do a box that's 40, not 40, like friggin' 70 inches high. So I would say like
Yeah,
hopping is a
yeah,
little bit better when you get to the upper ends of things. I guess you could load depth jumps as well, but I would still prefer to do single leg hopping as well because there's
yeah,
a few more variations you can do there too, and it's a little bit more scalable, and you don't need any
yeah.
equipment either. So if you're one of these two archetypes, these three exercises, they're going to be quite big hitters towards improving your vertical and getting you jumping and dunking effortlessly. So we hope this podcast gave you some perspective and helped you out. Again, if you want coaching, you can apply down below. We also have a free workout you can get down below as well, like a free lower body workout. If you do consistently, you'll literally jump higher, plus game changing free advice to inbox every single day that you won't find anywhere else. So if you're interested in those, you can apply below and we'll catch you guys in the next episode.
Peace out.